the Holy Land and liberate it from the Muslim infidels completely.
Look at them, thousands of innocent children believing God will part the seas for them.
These children claim God speaks directly to them, commanding them toward the Holy Land.
God speaks through us, children, because we are pure and uncorrupted by worldly sin.
My mother cried when I left, but God needs me more than she does. God has chosen us, innocent children, to succeed where knights and armies have failed utterly.
We will walk until our feet bleed. God will give us strength and...
Over 20,000 children have joined Stephen's crusade, leaving their families behind forever. God has blessed our unity, thousands upon thousands of children united in holy purpose. The Crusades had failed repeatedly, so perhaps God would succeed through innocent children. From this small village of Vendôme, a shepherd boy would change European history. Life was hard for these peasant children, with little hope for better futures ahead.
God appeared to me in white robes, commanding me to lead children toward Jerusalem.
If children can perform miracles through faith, what does this mean for our church authority? The church must monitor this movement closely, and these children may be divinely inspired.
The children believed that innocence alone could accomplish what armies had failed to do. Nicholas convinced German children that they alone possessed the faith to reach Jerusalem.
These children are being led into terrible danger, not divine inspiration and miracles.
God has shown me visions of seas parting to let us cross to Jerusalem. The nights are cold, we are hungry, but God will provide food and warmth.
Here in the Rhine Valley, two massive crusades would merge into overwhelming force.
The forests are dangerous, bandits hid among trees, but God protects the faithful.
Over 100,000 children now march toward the Mediterranean across medieval Europe. The Mediterranean had finally been reached, but the sea showed no sign of parting.
Reports confirmed that blind children regained sight. Crippled children walked without pain or crutches.
The movement had grown so large that organization became necessary for basic survival. My daughter left me without goodbye, believing God commanded her to distant holy lands. Existing Crusader armies had fought for decades, but made little permanent territorial progress. Unscrupulous merchants and ship captains saw profitable opportunity in desperate religious children. Nicholas possessed remarkable ability to inspire thousands of children with absolute conviction of success. Many villages provided food and shelter, despite warnings from clergy about the movement. The merging of French and German crusades created the single force exceeding 100,000. Rumors spread that the Pope himself had blessed the Children's Crusade from Rome. Disease spread rapidly among children living in crowded, unsanitary conditions during the journey. Official church authorities began issuing warnings that the movement had become dangerously delusional.
Death tolls mounted as disease, hunger, and exhaustion claimed thousands of child crusaders.
Crusader commanders in Holy Land had no idea what to do with arriving children. Marina. Parents' desperate pleas could not convince their children to abandon the holy mission. Unscrupulous merchants were already negotiating secret arrangements regarding the children's fates with others. The merging of two crusades created spectacle that inspired children and alarmed authorities.
The sea passage to Holy Land required payment, money that poor children could never afford.
The Church officially declared the children's movement heretical and demanded its immediate termination.
The moment of truth had arrived. Thousands of children stood before the sea. The children believed the sea would miraculously part before their assembled masses here. The waters will part for us, as they did for Moses in ancient biblical times. Parents screamed their children's names as soldiers pushed them back from the departing vessels. The ship captains cared nothing about reaching Holy Land. They saw profitable human cargo. Approximately 7 ships carried thousands of children toward their promised Holy Land destination. The ship captains crammed thousands of children into holds designed for cargo only. For 3 days, the ships sailed, and children remained hopeful when they approached the Holy Land. The ship captains had already received payment to deliver the children to slave markets. The children suddenly realized they were not approaching the Holy Land, but a foreign shore. The children's final destination was not the Holy Land, but the slave markets of Tunis. Thousands of children who believed in divine miracles suddenly faced the reality of slavery. The children were separated from companions and sold individually to the highest bidders present. Even Stephen of Vendôme, the movement's leader, was reduced to commodity status. Multiple shiploads of children arrived at various North African ports to face identical fates.
The Church had known of the danger and could have prevented this tragedy.
Thousands of children now worked as slaves throughout North African territories, never returning home. The harbor that had been overflowing with thousands of children now stood eerily silent. Families across Europe learned their children would never return from the Crusade ever. Monastic chroniclers documented that over 30,000 children were lost to slavery. Parents wrote desperate letters to church authorities begging for information about their lost children. The Pope himself expressed shock and sorrow at the tragedy that had unfolded. Child crusaders who survived the journey faced decades of enslavement in North African lands. Many children died from disease, malnutrition, and brutal treatment during their enslavement. The child crusaders became invisible slaves, their existence forgotten by European communities. Those fortunate survivors who returned found monasteries willing to document their horrific experiences. The enslaved children were distributed throughout North African territories, making family reunification nearly impossible. Church authorities condemned the movement as demonic delusion, absolving themselves of any responsibility. European communities that lost thousands of children faced economic and social collapse for decades. Many children spent their entire lives imprisoned within these Mediterranean fortress cities. Monks documented these tragic events for posterity, ensuring the children's story would not be forgotten. Deathbed confessions by ship captains finally revealed the organized trafficking network's terrible scope. European kings blamed religious authorities while denying any knowledge of the terrible events.
Parents who lost children spent remaining lives haunted by their children's terrible fates.
The Crusader kingdoms in Holy Land never received the divine reinforcement children promised. Female survivors who returned described sexual abuse and exploitation beyond what men experienced. The Children's Crusade tragedy revealed extensive trafficking networks that continued exploiting children afterward. The Pope eventually acknowledged church institutional failure to prevent the children's exploitation and tragedy. Centuries later, stone memorials were erected to honor thousands of children lost to slavery. Annual memorial services began honoring the child crusaders in cathedrals across medieval Europe.
Monastery archives became repositories of tragic testimony, documenting the complete Crusade history.
Medieval historians compiled comprehensive records, ensuring future generations would understand what happened. Modern archaeology continues discovering evidence of medieval child slavery networks in Mediterranean waters. A few survivors eventually returned to Europe, transformed by decades of slavery and suffering. Over 30,000 children disappeared across distances spanning an entire Mediterranean, their stories largely forgotten. Investigation revealed extensive organized networks had profited from trafficking thousands of children. Merchants' own ledgers documented systematic profiteering from the Children's Crusade tragedy completely. Evidence emerged suggesting European kings had prior knowledge of trafficking before it occurred. The Pope confronted evidence that church officials had deliberately ignored early warning signs.
Church councils formally condemned merchants, ship captains, and slavers as enemies of Christianity.
Years after the tragedy, organized efforts finally began attempting to recover surviving children. Survivors who were ransomed finally experienced freedom after decades of enslavement and suffering. Monasteries established specialized care for survivors suffering permanent physical and psychological damage. Communities erected monuments and gardens, honoring the thousands of children lost to slavery. Ship captains and merchants faced legal trials for their roles in trafficking children. Many traffickers received death sentences or permanent exile as legal punishment for crimes.
Facilities were established specifically to provide psychological and physical rehabilitation for freed children.
Europe's cathedrals began construction on permanent memorials dedicated to the Crusade victims. Monasteries launched comprehensive projects documenting the Children's Crusade tragedy for future generations.
Stephen spent his remaining years testifying to the tragedy he had inadvertently caused.
Nicholas died in slavery but was eventually ransomed, remembered as both leader and victim.
Communities that lost thousands of children experienced permanent economic and social decline.
Some families miraculously reunited with surviving children after decades of separation and uncertainty. Church authorities implemented new laws specifically designed to protect children from exploitation. Universities began offering formal study of the Children's Crusade tragedy and its causes. Modern archaeology continues discovering evidence confirming the extent of Children's Crusade trafficking. Comprehensive chronicles were compiled, creating the permanent historical record of the entire tragic movement. New market regulations were enforced to prevent exploitation of vulnerable young people.
Survivors dedicated remaining years to ensuring future generations would learn from the tragedy.
The Children's Crusade represented a pivotal moment when religious fervor collided with human trafficking. The exposed trafficking networks underwent significant reforms due to public outcry over Crusade. Monastery archives became permanent repositories, containing thousands of documents about the Crusade tragedy. Villages erected permanent memorials, ensuring Crusade victims would be remembered for centuries. Survivor testimonies were carefully documented, preserving first-hand accounts of trafficking and enslavement. Port cities implemented new regulations preventing unauthorized ship departures carrying vulnerable populations. Educational institutions began teaching the Children's Crusade as warning against religious manipulation. Memorial churches were constructed specifically dedicating sacred space to honoring Crusade victims. Medieval universities produced scholarly works analyzing causes and consequences of the tragedy. The Children's Crusade tragedy fundamentally transformed medieval European institutions and social systems.